opening statement.
Well, first, I want to just continue to thank our fans as we continue to represent with sellouts here at Mizzou Arena. It means a lot to our success, but more importantly, it sets up a home court advantage that I think it really makes teams an environment where teams struggle in. And I want to just continue to encourage our fans to continue to support us the way that they do. So I'm thankful for that. Another week in the SEC, we've obviously had a bye week where we were able to rest up a little bit, but also install what we needed to install, sharpen up what we need to sharpen up on. And our guys are really, really excited about our next opportunity. Chris Jans does an amazing job, and he has been his entire career. Mississippi State is a tremendous team, well balanced. Defensively, we know what they bring to the table. Their grit, their toughness, that's something that is an identity of their program, always has and always will be. The one thing that I would say, they're playing excellent basketball. Hubbard being able to score what he scored last game, it poses a threat for us. He's a talented all-conference player, and he's definitely one of those kids that can, do the same thing he did again. I think they're well balanced. They're tough. They let one get away. I thought they had a late edge that they just didn't execute down the stretch, and ultimately, I'm sure they want that game back. But when it comes down to second chance points, they have 40 second chance points. And whenever you have, 40 points in the paint and then 8 second chance points. So whenever you have the presence in the paint that they've had, it causes a threat, top to bottom. From the free throw line, they were 10 for 16. And they're going to continue to do a good job, but I'm excited about what we've done this past week with our program.
All right, questions for Coach?
Coach, how beneficial is a full week of rest, especially in a pretty grueling conference slate?
I think it's timely. Whenever you look at being able to get into a new month of basketball in your conference, that means that teams are starting to break down a little bit. As you can see, I think with us, it gives us a time to recoup, focus on what we've done right, focus on what we've done wrong, and correct those wrongs. We hadn't played the best basketball on the road, and that's something that we got to get to. And I think our guys are focused enough to be able to accept that challenge. But in essence, you can play well in this conference and still lose a game. And that's what you have to understand. And I don't want our guys to get too far behind themselves or too far ahead of themselves. I want them to stay in the moment.
Coach, we've seen teams in the SEC this season thrive at home, and you guys have you have a back-to-back road games coming up on the schedule. Can you talk about that challenge of going up against these SEC teams that are trying their hardest to protect home court, especially this season?
Well, at the end of the day, the big picture in scheduling is this: you still have the same amount of road games as you do home games. What you cannot do is allow yourself to lose focus of the lesson that you need to learn and through the obstacles. Regardless of where you play and who you play, it's still one of those things where they have an advantage. They're at home. We have to go out, focus how we need to focus, and just play a complete ball game from beginning to the end. And whatever that entails, I want us to not have self-infliction in that process. I thought we've had self-infliction before, and I think our guys corrected it in our home games. But there's no doubt about it, our crowd is a part of that correction. They've helped it. So we got to just have a level of focus, and I know with a veteran team that they'll be excited to play. We just can't lose our nerves in the process. We have to be able to execute the game plan.
Coach, Mississippi State seems to be excellent at creating those extra possessions you talk about, offensive boards and forcing turnovers. How much of that self-infliction that you're talking about is going to be concerned with taking care of the basketball, with making sure they don't out-rebound you off the offensive glass?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing you have to understand is I can't control how the ball bounce, and our guys can't, but we have to pursue the basketball. The other thing is when it comes down to, their defense, they have a great defense, so do we. And ultimately, both teams are going to go out and give their very best. That's what makes the strength of the SEC the strength of the SEC. A lot of teams, a lot of great teams. I just hope the committee understands, meaning the NCAA committee understands that the strength of our conference is in our teams, in our coaches, in our players, and our teams are playing well, and they still may not win games. And that's ultimately where, do you penalize those teams or not? I just think for us, we're in our own race, and our race is how much more can we improve weekly, how much more we can improve individually, and how much better we can get each game. And ultimately, no matter where it's played at, we have a style of basketball that we have to execute, and that's what we kind of focus on.
Coach, you touched on it earlier. Josh Hubbard with 38 points tonight. What goes into slowing down somebody who can put points up in a hurry like that?
Well, he's one of the best scorers in our conference, and I think when you look at what he's done, not just this year but over his career, he's a scorer. He's a multi-level scorer. He's not a guy that just settles for all threes, but he's a guy that can make threes. He's a guy that can finish in the paint. He's athletic. Don't look at his stature at all, but he's a talented player. But they have a ton of talent on their team. It's not just one-dimensional, and he's gonna give to his team what his team needs to be able to be in a situation to win a game at the end.
Coach, with Caleb Grill, what makes him such an elite shooter this year?
Who he's on the court with, I think that helps. Making extra passes. He has a quick release. Now, let's take nothing away from Caleb Grill. His talent is his talent, but his toughness is mentally. He has a mental toughness about him, a belief and confidence about him that resonates no matter the situation. I give all our guys green lights to make plays, so I want our guys to be aggressive on that side. And ultimately, he's a kid that can move without the ball, and his game isn't just on the offensive end. He rebounds, he gets extra basketball opportunities, he throws his body around, and he's just as physical as he is, from his position. So I'm just thankful he's representing us, and we're not playing against a kid like that, but he's a talented young man, and I'm thankful he's in our lives.
Coach, with Josh Hubbard again, you played against a lot of players that are similar to his player profile, a small, quicker guard that has a very quick trigger from downtown. Especially with somebody like Sean Padula, who also similar player profile that you guys did a pretty good job of stopping last game. What are some lessons you can take from those games and apply to guarding Josh Hubbard?
Well, I think you just got to get a hand up, ultimately, and in those situations you can't foul. He's drawing a lot of fouls from behind the arc as well. He does a little side twist, and sometimes defenders clip his legs, and we have to give him space while also being vertical and contesting the right way without fouling his lower body. So we got to do a great job of that and making sure that we try to get deflections on the passers that's trying to get the ball to him. And when you can disrupt things with a fingernail on the ball, it also disrupts a shooter or the rhythm of a shooter sometimes. Can't give them easy looks from the free throw line, right? So if they're in the bonus, we can't have fouls that they hadn't earned, and we got to be able to keep ourselves in position and just make sure that in transition we don't lose them, but also we don't foul them at the rim and different things like that.
One last question.
Coach, in the midst of this 4-game stretch against 4 top 16 teams, does this stretch feel any more important to the season compared to maybe any other stretch that's coming up down the road before the conference tournament?
Yeah, it's 18 games. It's an 18-game stretch, not a 4-game stretch, and each stretch of games add an emotional, mental, and physical component that we have to endure. We have some unbelievable opponents that we're facing, but it's one game at a time, and each game can deliver different tendencies or different things moving forward. And if you rewind, our last, couple games, they've all been difficult. I think everyone's realizing how good Vanderbilt is. Everyone's realizing, even LSU, the fight that they put up consistently. Those were tough home games for us, in addition to our road games. I think ultimately the SEC is the #1 conference. We're in a new day of college basketball, And when you look at our next opponent is the most important opponent, and then we'll dissect the opponent after that. But our guys' focus, their number one focus is on Mississippi State and our road trip to Starkville.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thanks, MIZ.
We'll be back with Josh